Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Keeping It Classic Season 2. Keeping It Classic is the official student-run podcast of the Classic, and today we're joined by Interim Acting Assistant Principal of Guidance, Shikira Chang. In this episode, we'll discuss with Ms. Chang her story coming to Townsend, how she's adjusting to her new role, and plans for the future. Prior to working at Townsend Harris, Ms. Chang worked at Catherine and Count Basie Middle School in Queens, and later at Kerr Hahn Expeditionary Learning School in Brooklyn. At Kerr Hahn, she taught AP English Literature, and was the only teacher in the school who taught an AP-level class. There, Ms. Chang also worked along familiar faces at Townsend Harris, including Mr. Seidel and Mr. McCaughey. In an article previously published by The Classic, Ms. Chang says she first hopes to fully immerse herself with the culture and intricacies at Townsend Harris and looks forward to the challenges that come with being in a new school and in a new position. Welcome to the podcast, Ms. Chang.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
To start off the conversation, can you tell us a bit about your background and where you're from?
So I am an immigrant. My parents are both immigrants. I came to this country when I was quite small. Both my parents were born in Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica as well. People get confused by my last name. It's actually my birth name. So my dad's grandfather actually left China and settled in Jamaica. And so my dad is part Chinese. I have a unique, maybe not so unique. I have an interesting immigration story. So my dad came here first, and then I followed behind, and then my mom came when I was a little bit older. So growing up, it was pretty much just me and my dad, and I'd spend my entire summers in Jamaica. My parents they weren't educated here, so I think that's part of the reason I ended up in the teaching profession. My mom, when she finally made it to the United States, came when I was just transitioning into high school. And so for the entire high school to college experience, I kind of had to figure things out on my own. So I did a lot of work trying to determine what college I'd apply to. I ended up only applying to one college. I would not recommend that to anyone. So I applied to Binghamton University. I just knew I'd get in, but that was just an internal feeling I had. There was no guarantee. Even though my grades were good, obviously anything could have happened, but I studied for the SAT on my own. I researched the colleges on my own. I did my FAFSA on my own, mainly because my parents just worked a lot and didn't really understand the process in the United States because their experience back home was completely different. And so after that, I went on to graduate Clark Martin High School in Brooklyn. My interest was in pursuing a career in medicine, so that's why I went to that school. And then I got into Binghamton. I was a biology major for 3 years, and then I decided to switch majors my junior year. And then I pursued a degree in English, and I stayed there for an extra year and a half, and I completed my master's degree in teaching, and my focus was in English.
And why did you decide to switch from biology to teaching and then to English as a major?
So I think that is part of my cultural experience as well. As I stated previously, both parents, West Indian or Caribbean family. My mom stressed academics, and I would say that from my mom's perspective, success meant being a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And so, I always did well in science. I always loved the sciences. And I wanted to pursue a career in pediatric cardiology. And my mom was able to get me an internship at a doctor's office. And it was then that I realized this wasn't really my passion. The goals I had for myself as an adult did not align with a career in that field. And one of the things that led me to realize that was when I had a patient who passed away. So that was something like I couldn't really kind of like deal with in that moment. I was fairly young as well. And I wanted to work with children. So that would have been even harder. The other thing was the amount of time that I saw the doctor spend with his patients. I remember his daughter actually used to come to the office, and she would kind of sit in a little office by herself, and kind of she would have to pretty much engage in activities by herself. And I always wanted a family, and so that's not to say that I couldn't have had a family as a physician, but it would have been completely different. And so I think from an early age, my first job in high school was at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, and I was a junior instructor, and I've always worked well with young people. So I think English was actually, in high school, my worst subject. I did very well in math and science, but English was one area that I would constantly get like 80s, not low 80s, but like 88, 86. And my mom always said to me, you come from an English-speaking country, why are you failing English? But in retrospect, what I realized was that in those courses, I wasn't challenged. So I was reading literature, but with what purpose, I didn't know. And even though my grades weren't horrible, like I wasn't being pushed. And so when I got to college, I realized that there was a deficit there. And my long-term goal was to go back to my alma mater and to become an English teacher so that the students would be able to have an education that I didn't receive myself. And so after I graduated, I just decided to continue in the field of education. And I actually worked at my alma mater for a little bit, and then I moved to Florida, and I continued to teach there, and then I came back and worked in a very similar community. And then I'm here now.
I'm the same. I'm a STEM student. I don't like
Yeah.
English. I feel like it's like puzzle pieces, but like math, you can have certain concepts and you can apply to everything. Whereas English, I feel like it's everything applied to one thing, if that makes sense.
So one of the reasons I enjoyed English was because it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And so I think because I think I'm equally left and right-brained, obviously there's some creativity that could take place in an English classroom that you might not have access to in like a STEM classroom. And I like to explore that a little bit.
Building onto English, at your previous school, you worked at Kurt Han Expeditionary Learning School, and I wanted to ask, what was your experience working there, and what lessons did you learn from that school and you hope to bring to Townsend this year? So
Kurt Han, it is a mouthful. Kurt Han Expeditionary Learning School is a small consortium school. It's a consortium and outward bound school. What that means is that students there don't have to take the Regents, so they're exempt from all Regents exams with the exception of English, and instead they have to do what's called a PBAT. So all students in consortium schools have to panel for math, science, social studies, and English. Typically that will happen in at Kurt Han at least, in their upper grades. So junior year or senior year, and they have to write a paper, an extended paper, and then once the paper is approved, they have to do a presentation. It's similar to like what you would have to do if you went to grad school and you had to write a master's thesis and then do an oral defense. So students would then have to present their research or their findings in front of a panel of adults. And I've learned a lot. I think my teaching pedagogy has improved significantly working there because there's so many different needs in that school. So I've had to learn how to kind of assess where students are and try to meet them where they are. Again, because there's so many learning styles, differentiation was something that I learned to kind of master when I was a teacher there. And that's something I'm realizing at Townsend Harris. That's a skill that I can support my colleagues with at this school. I think at Townsend, we assume that all students can handle the coursework because you guys are all the top of your middle school classes. And so if I present you an assignment, you should know how to handle that. But sometimes we lose sight of the fact that, everyone's different and your learning styles are different. And so your needs may be different from the person next to you. Other things I've learned, that school is really big on kind of like self-exploration and discovery through inquiry. So it's a very, well, we call it a progressive school, but I would say it's an unconventional approach to learning. And I would like to kind of, think about ways that I could help teachers here engage students in that type of experiential learning.
And what has been your initial experience in a month and a half coming to Townsend?
Okay, so when I first got here, I must say, it's a much bigger school, getting to know over 100 new staff members, 1,300 students, totally new environment because I'm coming from Brooklyn. I'm not as familiar with Queens. It's all a huge learning curve for me. But in the 6 weeks I've been here, and I spoke with the principal about this also, I feel like each day I'm learning something new and I'm finding my path. And I'm grounded in this department, and I'm also learning to make this my home. So there's some students who I see on a regular basis, like Freddie, for example, who stops by all the time. And so anywhere I go, I like to create a space that makes me feel like this is my home, and I'm slowly building my space in not just this office, but I try to get up to the 6th floor as much as I can so I could learn who the students are, who the teachers are, and then kind of figure out where I belong.
How do you feel about the stairs? 7 floors.
I actually take the stairs. Anytime I go to the 6th floor, very rarely do I take the elevator. So I like to get my steps in, and I feel like if I take the stairs, then I'm seeing faces that I probably haven't seen before. So I'm meeting new students, and then everyone here is so welcoming. So when I'm in the I'm in the main office, people introduce themselves to me because they know I can't remember everyone from one meeting. But yeah, and I'm also learning that the back staircase, at first I didn't realize that there were 2 other staircases. So I learned that when I did my first fire drill.
What is one thing you look most forward to this school year?
This school year. So my biggest goal right now is, like I said, I see myself as an observer. I'm here trying to figure out how things work at Townsend, so I could identify where the needs are. I also want to identify where my strengths are and how I could support students and staff at the school with the toolkit that I brought in here. So I don't know if this is in fact one of the areas that needs support, but just collaborating between the academic spaces and the guidance space to support students holistically. I want to make sure that all the students here feel supported emotionally, academically. And so we've been doing a lot of work around that, just gathering data, making sure that counselors are able to meet with each of the students on their caseloads. And I constantly, every day, I take some time to go through Jupiter grades and to go through Insight to make sure that I'm aware of where students stand. Again, not just academically, but also, where they're coming from, so that we could support them, not educationally, but emotionally as well.
Building on that, why did you choose Townsend as the next step in your career?
Okay, so Townsend actually came across my path. This summer I was working summer school, and then someone reached out to me and said that there may be a position available at Townsend. And I used to work with 2 Townsend teachers, Mr. Seidel and Mr. McCaughey. So both men worked at Kurt Hahn, And we actually worked very closely together because Kurt Han, we only had about 300 students when I first started working there. So all the teaching staff worked side by side, and we knew all the students who attended that school. So Mr. McCaughey came here first. I'm not sure how he landed this job. I think he knew maybe Mr. Sweeney. And then, of course, Mr. Seidel and Mr. McCaughey were also good friends. So when a position became available, I think Mr. Mack probably told Mr. Seidel. And so I told him that I was actually searching for an AP position as well. So I noticed, I think it was last year, that there were some open positions that were posted. And I reached out to them initially, but they said those positions were filled. So I think it's by fate that one became available over the summer. And that was the time that I said I would actively start searching for an AP position, and I've always heard great things. Everyone knows that Townsend Harris is a really, really good school, and I was just looking for a new opportunity to grow professionally.
And kind of closing our conversation, how do you plan to leave Townsend greater than you found it?
So that's a hard question to answer because, again, I'm in my observation phase. So, and this is something that I think I pride myself on. No matter where I go, I always try to add to what's already there. So my philosophy is that, you come into a new space, you leave it greater than how you found it, whatever that is. So if I'm teaching in the classroom, my aim is to expose students to a quality education. Right now at Townsend Harris, wherever the need is, that is where you'll find my support. So whether it's, and I think right now it's a lot of, it has to do with like the SEL component, just supporting students, making sure that they feel safe and supported in the guidance suite, but also reaching out to the academic teachers to make sure that students are doing well. I think if you feel like you're safe, you can trust the people around you, and you're comfortable in an environment, then you'll flourish no matter what.
Thank you for being on this podcast today. And thank you for the viewers and listeners to listening to this episode. You can read the latest articles on THHSclassic.com. Check out our content on THS Classic on Instagram or YouTube, The Classic TV. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Bye.